In my previous classes, I was discussing about this one sample t-test and two sample t-test, or two sample, or basically it is also known as the independent sample t-test. So one sample t-test is used in situation like if the researcher wants to know whether this particular sample is drawn from this particular population or not. Whether the sample, suppose you took this sample from this population and you want to know whether this sample is actually representing the population or not. So in that case, you will use this one sample t-test. Or if somebody says the average income of individuals, or average income of individuals in India, or average income of individuals in Odisha state is, let's say, 5 lakh per annum. So Odisha state acting as a population, what you will do, you will select some sample, you will take some sample from this population, and now you will check, you will put this 5 lakh rupees, you will suppose the population here is 5, let's say from this population you take the sample n is equal to 300. So in 300, from these 300 population, you will collect the data, their annual income or their average income, and then you will calculate, and then you will check whether the average income of all these 300 sample, or all the respondents, is whether it is coming 5 lakh, or whether it's less than 5 lakh or more than 5 lakh. So basically, you will check whether this statement that the government has given, the average income of average income of individuals in Odisha state is 5 lakh rupees. So in that case, if you want to check, then you can collect some sample, and from that sample you will apply this one sample t-test in order to check whether the statement given by the government is correct or not. So, or in other words, you can also say that whether the sample is drawn from this population or not, whether the sample is a representative of this population. If the sample is representative of your population, then in that case you will say the average income of all the respondents in the sample is basically 5 lakh. It's coming 5 lakh, more than 5 lakh, or less than 5 lakh. So in this situation, you will use one sample t-test. When you will use the two sample t-test, when the two different samples are drawn from the population, and you will check whether the two samples are different from each other, or two samples are same, but the population will be same. Suppose you want to check the annual, or let's say the average package of male in XUB, male student, and average package of female student in XUB. So there are two different sample. The population is same, that is the XUB PG students. But the sample that you have drawn, one is male. We are talking about the average package of male student and the average package of female student. So there are two different sample, and you have taken this sample from this population XUB PG student. So here in this case, population is same. Now you want to check whether the two samples are different from each other, or whether the two samples are same in terms of the average package. So in that case, you will use independent sample t-test, or it is also known as a two sample t-test. Now the third that comes is known as paired sample t-test. Paired sample t-test. This t-test is used, basically it is used to check the before and after effect. Suppose the students' knowledge, or students' learning, or students' knowledge about this SPSS, your class, that is this UG 5th SEM, and their knowledge or their understanding of SPSS. I'll take some test, and you will score some marks. Okay, so this is before having the class of this SPSS, your marks in this particular RM subject. After having this class, or after having some practice in SPSS software, what will happen? Again, I'll take some test and I'll note your score. So I want to check the effect of this particular lecture on your understanding, whether on your learning, whether this SPSS class is effective or not, whether this RM class is effective or not. Before having this RM class, your understanding about the SPSS. After having, then I provide you, or I give this lecture about this SPSS, and then I'll take your test and identify your marks. So whether there is a difference, whether the particular class, whether this RM class is effective or not. Or you can also take the example of the medicine or this Patanjali coronal medicine, whether it is acting as an immunity booster or not. So the patients, those who are not having this coronal, उनका immunity check किया आपने, 10 different samples लिया and immunity you have checked. Then after having this medicine for 1 month, and again from the same sample you will collect the data, you will collect their immunity. Now you will check whether this particular medicine is effective or not, whether this coronal is acting as an immunity booster or not. If there is no difference, then you will say that this is not acting as an immunity booster. If there is a difference, then you will say yes, it is acting as an immunity booster. But what is similar? Your sample will be similar. Suppose initially you took 10 corona patients and उनका जो भी आपने डेटा लिया, सपोज इम्यूनिटी चेक किया 10 कोरोना पेशेंट्स का, देन अब 1 month के लिए फॉर 1 week you will provide them this medicine coronal, okay, and then from the same sample, ये sample में जो 10 respondent है, you will again take the same sample and again you will check their immunity, whether this coronal or whether this medicine is effective or not. In that case, you will use this paired sample t-test. So in paired sample, your sample will be same. In case of one sample t-test, there will be only one sample. In case of two sample independent t-test, there will be two different sample. But in case of this paired sample t-test, there will be only one sample, but you will check the effect, whether this particular before and after, before giving some experiment, these are the readings, again फिर उसको कुछ training दिया या कुछ experiment किया, and after that what are the readings, and then if there is a difference, then you will say yes, this particular training or this particular experiment is effective. If there is no difference, then you will say it is not effective. So is it clear, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there is one more which is known as ANOVA. ANOVA तो आप लोग पढ़े हो. What is the meaning of ANOVA? Please ये मत बोलना analysis of variance. इसके अलावा क्या जानते हो? What do you understand by ANOVA? ANOVA is analysis of variance, but it is used. The concept of ANOVA is similar to that of the independent sample t-test. In independent sample t-test, what I said, there will be two different samples. But when there is more than two different samples, so in that case, you will use ANOVA. So ANOVA is basically the extension of this independent sample t-test. So जब दो sample है, then you will use this independent sample t-test. When there is more than two different samples, then in that case, you will use one-way ANOVA, one-way analysis of variance. Okay. Now, how will you do all these tests? So we have already discussed about this one sample t-test. We have already discussed about this, how will you conduct this two sample independent t-test. Now today we will discuss how will you perform this paired sample t-test and this ANOVA in SPSS. Okay. Please open your SPSS, those who have installed. Class. Vaibhav, Dhiman, Anu.
Yes, ma'am.
Sanket, Gagan. Please open your laptop. Laptop in the sense
Yes.
SPSS. So this first question was the case of independent sample t-test. Second, male-female independent sample t-test. Okay. Question number 3rd, अभी ignore करते हैं. Yeah, 4th. See, in question number 4, what it is given, a company has reorganized its sales department. following data shows its weekly sales both before and after reorganization. The period for comparison is taken from January to March in successive years. So before reorganization, this is the sales, like weekly sales in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is the weekly sales of organization before reorganization. Second is after reorganization, what is the sales? So can it be concluded that the reorganization of the sales department of the company has resulted in a significant change in its sales? Okay, so what is what do you want to calculate here? Here the researcher want to know whether this reorganization process has any effect on sales or not. Or instead of having this reorganization, you can also use if the effect of advertisement in company sales. So before advertisement, before using any kind of promotion, before providing any kind of discount, you will firstly calculate the sales of the organization for the 10 weeks, and then after providing some, or after giving some ads, or providing some discounts and all to the consumers, what is the the sales of the organization again. So here in that case you will say ki I want to check the effect of advertisement in organization's sales. So this is basically, so how will you do it? So please open your SPSS, and in SPSS you will share this. Okay, the SPSS file is visible, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how will you do? You will go to firstly variable view. In variable name, you will just write before reorganization. So you can write it like this. अच्छा एक चीज और, in case of name you cannot use space bar. अभी मैं बोलूँ कि before और फिर मैं यहाँ पे reorganization so it will not work. देखो बोला है variable name contains an illegal character. So when you are putting the name, so you will use underscore. If you want to write before reorganization, so you will write before, either कुछ भी space bar मत use करो, simply write before reorganization. If you want to use some space, then you have to use this underscore. Now we will write before reorganization. अभी देखो ये आ जाएगा इसमें, ठीक है? तो जब भी you want to provide some space between the two words, then you have to use this underscore. Before reorganization, it's numeric, with decimal, nothing required. Then in label, you will simply write if this particular variable is representing the weekly sales of organization. Then values, nothing required. And sales is basically measured in rupees, then obviously it will be a ratio scale and you will put it in scale mode. Second is after reorganization, after underscore and the reorganization, you will write, then this will represent the weekly sales after reorganization. Then again it is we are talking about the sales, so it is basically a scale variable. You will click on scale. Now you will go to the data view. Now the data, that is you will put the weekly sales, and this is representing week 1, week 2, week 3. This is representing the week 1, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 weeks तक का हमें sales मालूम है. So you will do the entry. ये रहा आपका, ये MS Word file visible है क्या class?
नहीं मैम,
MS Word
दिख रहा है, MS Word
SPSS दिख रहा है. Okay, let me share this. Yeah, अभी visible है question number 4?
Yes ma'am.
So you will do the entry, first sales prior to reorganization and second sales after reorganization, and in that columns in data view. In the columns you will put this 12, 15, 13, 11, 17, 15, 10, 18 and 19. हो गया? करके बताना मुझे. बारह, 15, 13, 11. You will do the data entry and the assumptions will be same. Like the variable should be measured either on interval or ratio scale, and the second assumption is it should be normal, and the third assumption is there should not be any outlier. So you will check all these things. Obviously it is a sales, so means this is representing the weekly sales. So it is measured in the ratio scale. Sales is measured in rupees, so it is representing the ratio scale. Next, and you will check this what is it? Normality and the outliers.
मैम डेटा एंटर करने के बाद क्या चेक करना है मैम?
जो assumptions बताया था, you will check the normality and you will check the outliers.
Okay.
And normality and outlier for both, because here sample is same, organization is same, week is same, just but still there are two different variables before and after. So you will check the normality, you will check the outliers for both the variables. अभी आपका जो नेक्स्ट एग्जाम होगा या एक टेस्ट होगा, इट विल बी ऑन SPSS. अभी आप देखो उसको कैसे डाउनलोड करना है. How will you check the normality? You will go to the analyze, descriptive and explore. Then you will put both the variables in the dependent list. You will go to plots, you will click on normality plots with test and continue. You will go to options, nothing. Statistics. In statistics, you will click on outliers and then continue and then OK. you will go to this normality test. Both the significant value for both the variable is greater than 0.05, so you will say your variable is normal, both the variables is normal. So here also the value of p value is basically more greater than 0.05, so both the variables are normal. Now we will check the normality. It is normal, it is no, sorry, now we will check for outliers. So there is no outlier for both the variables. Let me share this screen. All of you have done this data entry, class?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have checked, I have done the data entry and I have checked this normality and the this outlier testing. So here also, let me show you how I have done this. 1 second. So this is the data like before reorganization. These are the sales of for 10 weeks, and after reorganization, again the sales of the 10 weeks. Now what will happen? You will go to, how will you check the normality and outlier? You will go to analyze, you will go to the descriptive statistics, you will go to the explore, and then by default, yeah. Now we will select both the variables to the this dependent list box. Then you will go to this statistics, you will click on outliers and continue. You will check, you will go to plot, and in plots you will check on this normality plots with test and then continue and then okay. If I share karo, share this. So this output file is visible, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So yeah, so this is the table for normality, and what is the values coming? The weekly sales of organization. Okay, before reorganization, this is the weekly sales, and for KS and SW test, that go for both tests, the p value is greater than 0.05, so we will say this variable is normal. Now the weekly sales after reorganization, again for this KS and SW test, this p value is greater than 0.05. So you will say this particular variable is normal. So both the variables are normal. Now we will go to check the normality. So this is the graph for this weekly sales before reorganization. So this is also showing key this is there is no any kind of outlier. For the second variable, that is weekly sales after reorganization, again you can see there is no any outlier. Now how will you proceed? You will go to analyze, you will go to descriptive statistics, sorry, you will go to compare means, and then in compare means you will go to this paired sample t-test. In paired sample t-test, what will happen? You will put this, yeah, in paired sample t-test you will put this weekly sales before reorganization as variable 1 and this weekly sales after reorganization as variable 2. You will simply click on options. By default 95% confidence interval is given, so nothing you will change. You will just click on continue and then click on OK. Output file ये वाला visible होगा ना. So output file is visible, class. This t-test paired sample statistic. Is it visible, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you can check the mean value like for the first, like before reorganization, the mean
मैम
value.
एक बार दोबारा बता दीजिए.
क्या चीज?
मैम ये मैम पेयर्ड मैम कैसे करना है मैम? एक बार दोबारा बता.
You will go to analyze, then compare means, and then paired sample t-test. एनालाइज कंपेयर मीन एंड द पेयर्ड सैंपल टीचर्स। जैसे क्लिक करोगे यहाँ पे देयर आर टू डिफरेंट वेरिएबल्स। जो वेरिएबल्स है उनको वेरिएबल पेयर 1 में, वेरिएबल 1 एंड वेरिएबल 2 में सेलेक्ट करेंगे। आई हैव ऑलरेडी सेलेक्टेड। ओके, ऐसे आ रहा है कुछ। You will select this weekly sales before reorganization in variable 1 and select this after reorganization in variable 2. Just check in options ki whether the confidence level interval is 95% or not. By default 95% hota hai, but you can check. Then continue and then OK. Jaise hi karoge, this output file will open and the first table that comes, it will talk about this paired sample statistic. So in pair 1, you will check the mean value, like the mean value of variable 1, like mean sale, or you can say the average sales, weekly average sales of this before reorganization is 14.1 and average sales after reorganization is 15.1. The mean is given. Now you will go to this table, this paired sample t-test. You will check it whether both the samples are same or different. So in paired sample t-test, what is the p-value is coming? P-value is minus 1.4, or simply if we ignore this minus sign, the p-value is coming, t-value is coming 1.4, which is less than 1.96, and the p-value is 0.186, which is greater than 0.05. So in this case, you will accept the null hypothesis. In null hypothesis, what is your null hypothesis? Your null hypothesis will be that there is no effect of reorganization on company's sales. And alternative hypothesis will be there is an effect of this reorganization on company's sales. So from this table, from this paired samples test table, you can identify that if this t value is less than 1.96 and the p value is greater than 0.05, so you will say you are going to accept the null hypothesis, and your null hypothesis is that there is no effect of this reorganization on the sales. So, and also from the mean value you can see 14.1 and 15.1, so it's very close to each other. So 14 and 15, just the difference of 1. So you will say yes, this reorganization has no effect on the organization sales or the company. Okay, class, can you share your screen? Those who have done can share their screen. Who will share? Dhiman, Nirmalya?
Yes, ma'am.
Share your screen. Vaibhav? Yeah, okay. So this is check. Okay, then. Or you have checked the normality and all?
Yes, ma'am.
थोड़ा scroll up करो इसको. Up. ऊपर. Yeah. Okay, so this. Okay, very good. Check. Then. Good. Okay. Before and after. Check. Very good. So up. Stop share now. Dhiman,
Yes, ma'am.
please share your screen. Why your t value is coming 1.6? Same data तो मैंने भी लिया है. कहीं कुछ गड़बड़ किया है आपने लग रहा है.
नहीं मैम, मेरा भी टी वैल्यू आ रहा है 1.6.
निर्मल्य के भी वही आ रहा था मैम.
सबका 1.6
आ रहा है.
तो मैंने कहीं गड़बड़ किया है लग रहा है, शायद मुझसे कुछ हुआ है, बट नॉर्मल आ रहा था, देयर वाज नो आउटलायर.
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Normal with no outliers.
So is it clear under what situation you will use this the one sample t-test, the two sample independent t-test use करना है, and when this paired sample t-test will be used?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Now for your the topic that you have chosen, the study that you are doing, the research, in that topic you have to decide कि which test you will apply. Suppose you want to check the consumer buying the effect of pandemic and the consumer buying behavior. So you can use this paired sample t-test also. Before this pandemic, what is the behavior of consumer? After this pandemic, what is the behavior of the consumer? And then you can check, is there any effect of this pandemic on consumer buying behavior? If it is yes, then okay, pandemic has an effect. If it is not, then you can simply say it doesn't have any effect on consumer buying behavior. Effect of the pandemic in the sales of cars या automobiles जो भी लिया आपने. So before this pandemic, last 10 months का आप sales निकालो, because it starts from March. So March से लेके अब तक का, and after pandemic March से लेकर के अब तक का ले लो. And in expected also you can talk to the company manager and all ki what is the expected sales in the month. Then you will calculate ki whether this pandemic has any effect on the sales of automobiles or not. In the same way आपका कुछ Instagram and time का था, so उस पे भी in that case you cannot use, I think, Instagram and the students marks ऐसे करके कुछ कर सकते हो आप. You can use this paired sample t-test, but लगेगा नहीं इस पे basically आपका होगा male and female, there will be two groups, girls and boys, and then you can use this independent sample t-test. Okay, so for this question number 4, how will you write? You will start writing like, you will write like the first, the hypothesis. The hypothesis will be H naught, that is null hypothesis, that this reorganization doesn't have any impact on organization's sales. And alternative is that this reorganization has an effect on organization sales. Firstly, you will write this hypothesis. In exam also, the first, जब से question मिलेगा, firstly your first task is to write this hypothesis. Then the second, you will write the test used. Test. So whether this is the case of one sample, whether this is a case of paired sample, whether this is the case of this independent sample t-test, you will write it here. If we are going to use, the test used is basically paired sample t-test. Then the third, you will write about the assumptions. And in assumptions, your first assumption is that the variable should be measured in ratio/interval scale. So this is पूरा हो रहा है, इसको करेंगे. Second, you will write about the test of normality. And then in test of normality, you will make the table like this. You will write it here. You will write this variable 1, variable 2, and this is the value of KS and SW. Now, जो KS test में जो statistic की value है, that is not required. Only you will have to write in case of KS test what is the P value is coming. In case of SW, what is the P value? Again, in case of this variable V2, what is the P value, KS P value, and in case of V2, what is the SW P value? You will write here, and just in one line you will write all the P values या जो भी है, जैसे भी it is greater than 0.05, so we will say this particular variable or both the variables are normally distributed. If it is less than 0.05, then in that case you will make the variable normal. Okay. Now the third, you will talk about this outliers, and then you will say that there is no any outlier. Then you will apply this particular test, whatever test you are in. Suppose in this case you are using the paired sample t-test. So you will use this paired sample t-test, and you will make the tables, जो भी table दिया हुआ है. First table is all about the mean. So you will write variable 1, variable 2, and what is the mean? That is 14.1 and the 15.1 you will make. Then you will make, so you will draw first table and the third table. In third table you will, or it is not required always to make the third table, simply you can put the t value. You will just draw the first table to know that what is the mean value is coming, the mean value for variable 1 and mean value for variable 2. And in last, you will write that t value is 1.5 and the p value is greater than 0.05. So by this we can accept the h0. And h0 क्या था आपका कि there is no effect of this reorganization on organization sales. So you can simply say that this reorganization or this particular advertisement or promotion has no effect on this organization sales. That is your conclusion. So this is the overall process. ऐसा नहीं कि spaces में data entry किया, result आ गया और फिर कुछ लिखा नहीं copy की. You have to write that. Then and only then you will get marks. Okay? Class?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
The fourth question is done. Fifth question is about the fifth already done. Seventh question, eighth question done. Ninth already done. 10th done. 11th. Yes. In 11th question, the researchers claim that the mean preference for sample 1 before investing in RCOM will be 5. So which test you will use in this case? Class?
Paired sample t-test.
Very good.
Compared.
Here you will use one sample t-test only for sample 1 because it is given here. Then examine whether both the samples have different attitude towards the mutual fund investment in RCOM, Reliance Communication. So here you will use 2 sample independent tests. And in the third case, can you identify the differences in attitude before and after investment in both the samples separately? It is given separately. If you look in the table, you will find that there are 2 different samples. Sample 1, serial number 1 से 10 तक there is sample 1. And sample 1 के लिए before and after is given. So before investing in the mutual fund, this is the attitude of consumers towards the mutual fund, and after investing, this is the attitude of consumers in mutual fund. Now in question number 3, you have to identify the differences in attitude, or simply you can make the hypothesis like H0 will be this this investment has any effect on attitude or not. Investment doesn't have any effect on consumers attitude. And alternative will be this investment has some effect on consumer attitude. Okay, so investment का कोई effect नहीं है, that will be on consumer attitude, that will be null hypothesis. Alternative होगा investment has some effect on consumer attitude, then you will make it. Or simply अगर in other words you can also write it like कि before and after investment attitude is same. Before investing in RCOM, the attitude, and after investing in RCOM, the attitude, both are same. So before investing, attitude is same, and after investing, attitude is same. That is your null hypothesis. What will be the alternative? If before investing in RCOM, attitude is different from after investing in RCOM. So you can write in any manner, either in terms of, if you want to write it in terms of a statement, then you will write that investment doesn't have any effect on the consumer's attitude. One alternative will be that this investment has some effect on the attitude. In other words, you can also write that before investment, the consumer's attitude is equal to after investment. This consumer attitude, there is no effect of this investment on consumer's attitude. Okay, so you can use either this or this. Now please check whether this investment has any effect on consumers' attitude or not. Class. So you will do the data entry for sample. I think you have this data entry because we have done this for sample 1. So for sample 1, firstly you will do the data entry, like for serial number 10 tak you will do this before and after. Then you will check the normality, and then you will apply this one sample, paired sample t-test, and you will check whether it has any effect or not. Then in second case, again you will from this serial number 11 to 20, you will do the data entry before and after, and you will follow the same procedure. Like you will check this this outliers and the normality, and then you will apply the paired sample t.